If you can't get in front of an owner of a property once a day, don't be in real estate. You should go do something else. The purpose of a cold call, and this is where a lot of agents get stuck, is the only reason people reject you on the phone when you ask them if they want to know what their property is worth is because, number one, they don't want to owe you anything, and they don't want to feel like they're obliged to do anything back for you. So you need to take that out of their head and say instantly on the phone, look, don't worry, I'm actually doing this for everyone in your street. I'm not going to call you every week. You've already made it really clear to me that you're not selling. Let's talk about the strategy of a cold call. I used to always follow a same strategy that I learned in my previous sales job, and that was, firstly, you want to... So you've mastered the market, but now you want to start winning for yourself. I'm Daniel Lee. Some know me as real estate's funny guy, but in the Get Keen podcast, we get down to business and explore what gets people really keen, how to get the most out of your real estate career, how to build a successful business and live the best life for yourself and your family. We'll uncover how to be hugely successful in real estate, setting you up to get keen and make the next big move in your life. Cold calling changed my life. I'm serious, and I'm going to tell you everything about how I built my business purely around cold calling. Now, if you are in real estate and you are getting into it and you are trying to make a success of yourself, I'm going to tell you a strategy that worked for me and works for a lot of agents out there. I know there's agents out there and there's other strategies out there to get business, but to be honest, a lot of them are just fluff and they don't work. What you need to be doing in real estate is building relationships with people. That the best agents out there have the most relationships. And that is what cold calling is all about. So first of all, I want to talk about what the purpose of cold calling is. All right? The purpose of a cold call, and this is where a lot of agents get stuck, is that they think that they should be calling around like random numbers to see if they can find people who want to sell. That should not be the main purpose of your cold call. In real estate, the purpose of a cold call is seriously just to make a genuine relationship with someone within an area that you want to service. If you do that with enough people, then people get to know you, and then as soon as they want to do business, they think of you, and so they call you back. So that's the purpose, right? And that's why most agents fail, because they go around and they jump into real estate, they hear about cold calling, they start to call, and they don't get immediate results, right? They get rejected, they don't find people who want to sell, and then they just think, oh, well, that doesn't work, I'll try something else, okay? That is not the reason why you cold call. Again, I'm going to express why you do cold calls is to build relationships to people. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. Before I got into real estate, I had this job, and I spoke about this in my first episode of how I got into real estate. So go and watch that if you're interested. But I'll dive a little bit deeper. I was a person who stood in a shopping center, and I had to stop as many people as I could and try and sell them a home phone or internet plan, right? This was face-to-face, cold, hard, commission-only selling, right? And when you're in a job like that, you have to do as much possible stopping and talking to people and trying to sell as you can. Otherwise, you make $0. And it can be difficult, but you can make it really easy. And you've just got to practice, right? And I did that job for a little while. And what it did is it made me understand the power of numbers and the power of how rejection just shouldn't faze you, right? Rejection is great. Rejection gets you way better at communicating with people because you need to figure out where you went wrong and where you can do better, and then you get to every time you're pitching to someone, whether it's for business or whether it's just on the phone for a cold call, like it gets you better at communicating. I'll go into that a little bit more, but. When I got into real estate, I'd been doing this, and then I did a door-to-door job where I actually walked door-to-door and sold water filtration systems. Okay, so you know when you go to the dentist and they have like a never-fail water bottle and you fill it up with your little cup, right? I was selling them to households, okay? So basically knocking on people's doors, they would answer and I would say, hey, are you drinking tap water? That's not good for you. You should have filtered water, and you know, give them all the benefits of why they should be drinking this filtered water out of a machine they have to pay for every week. Geez, that was a really hard job, but you know what? I took all of the skills that I got from that door knocking and from that cold prospecting from the other job, and I took that into real estate. So when I got into real estate, I already knew sales is all about numbers, right? And I don't want to sound bad there by saying people are just numbers, but the numbers are in the amount of relationships that you have with people. So I knew instantly when I got into real estate, I've got to build relationships with the people that own the houses, because if I do that, when they come to sell their house, they're going to come and talk to me. So if you're doing cold calls and you think the purpose is to try and find someone that's selling, you're going to fail, because there's actually a very small percentage of people out there in the marketplace at any given time that actually want to sell their house. So the chances that you actually call someone and they're right there at that specific moment going, oh, geez, I'm so glad you called. I'm actually selling tomorrow. Can you come over and we'll sign the agreement? You know how many times that's happened in my entire career of 17 years? I reckon twice in 17 years. And let me tell you, I have done, no word of a lie, over 100,000 cold calls in my time. All right? I'm not kidding. I've done that much. I was the king of cold calling at my old company. I built my whole real estate business on the back of cold calling because I knew that it worked, right? But you have to stick to it. So I'm going to give you some absolute value lessons here in how you can be the best cold caller, how to master this skill, and how to get really quick success out of cold calling, because that's what I did. I actually overtook an entire market that I had absolutely zero market share within 1 year, all from cold calling, all right? Cold calling and a bit of letterbox dropping and that sort of stuff, but mainly cold calling. This is what I did when I got into real estate, okay? This was my schedule. Every single day at 4 o'clock till 6:30, I called people from Monday to Thursday, trying to book in appointments for me to come over to their house to see if I could give them a property update. And then on Saturdays, when I didn't have open homes, I would come in on a Saturday and I would make sure that I cold call and book up at least a couple of appointments for Monday and Tuesday. So every single day of my working day, when I didn't have any listings, when I was new in real estate, I was always out and about in the evenings and during the day when I could, wherever I could get an appointment with someone to go and visit their house, giving them some information about the market, some information about their property, introduce them to me and my services, who I am, what I'm all about, what I'm going to do for them if they ever want to work with me. But most of all, I'm just building some rapport with that person and building a relationship so that now they know who I am, what I do, where to find me, and I've done something for them, okay? And those are the really important things that you want to get out of your cold call, okay? When you cold call in real estate, you want to ask people whether or not they want some information about what you're doing, whether you're selling something or whether or not you're just providing people with updates of their property value in the street, and get an invite into their house, all right? Once you get an invite into their house, you want to build rapport with these people, all right? Talk about life, find things that you have in common, and then talk about their house for a little bit and what they've done and why they love it, and then just go away and come back to them a couple of days later with some really important information for them to digest. You know, a lot of the time it's just a property appraisal on you know, what the house is worth in the current market. And even if they're not thinking of selling at that time, now that person knows you, they're going to remember you, okay? So that is the point. Let me just give you some numbers and why you want to do this, all right? Now, a lot of people say that's pointless. Why would I want to go and meet someone who isn't selling anytime soon? What's the point? Why waste my time booking an appointment to go and see someone and give them a property valuation? They've told me they're not even selling, or they might sell in a couple of years. What's the point? Well, let me tell you some numbers, okay? 7% of real estate around Australia, on average, 7% of all real estate sells, okay? Obviously, in different areas and different times of the market, it's plus or minus a little bit, but on average, 7% of all properties in the country sell every single year. So let's say you go out there and in the first 3 months of being a real estate agent, you focus on a specific area and you get to know 100 people, okay, in the first 90 days, all right? And that's not that hard to do, okay? That's like literally a little bit more than one a day, all right? If you can't get in front of an owner of a property once a day, I don't know what you're doing, okay? Don't be in real estate, you should go do something else. Because if you can't get in front of one person who owns a property in the area you want to service per day, in a whole day, then you're probably in the wrong industry. Okay, so get good and get comfortable with being uncomfortable about getting in front of people and giving them information about their house. All right, but if you've got 100 people who, after 3 months, you've met them and you have gone around to see their house, whether they're selling or not, doesn't matter. Okay, you've built some rapport with them. You've given them some valuable information about their house. They now have all your details. You've got all their details. They have emails from you. They've got some physical collateral from you, something of value to them, some information. You've built some rapport. They're never going to forget you now. They know who you are. They know what you do. They know where to find you. And you've done something for them. You've got a relationship. Now, out of 100 relationships that you've now built in 3 months, in the following 12 months, I can guarantee you almost, not with 100% guarantee, of course, but with a sample size of 100, 7 of those people are going to sell their property in the next 12 months. Okay, so this is a numbers game, guys. It is all a numbers game. Now add that up, get to 1,000 of these people, which you can do in 2 to 3 years. You can have 1,000 people within a particular area that you want to service who know who you are, know what you do, know where to find you, and you've done something for them. If you get to 1,000, you got 70 people who are going to sell in the next 12 months. 70 listings are on offer that could fall in your lap. Now, I'm going to tell you my numbers. So I did that, and that's all I focused on in real estate, okay? Because I just knew if I did this with as many people, I'm going to absolutely take over this area. And I did it in 12 months, right? And then once I took it over, I just kept doing the same thing for years and years. And every year, I just grew and grew and grew, okay? So of those 1,000, so I actually eventually had about 1,500 people on database, but let's work on when I got to 1,000, I actually did a study on myself and my numbers. And out of 1,000 people that I had done appraisals for, I had actually done a favor for in the marketplace, and they knew who I was. Like if you knocked on their door and said, "Who's Daniel Lee?" they'd say, "Oh yeah, real estate agent." Decent guy, I guess. But they would know who I am and they would know where to find me, and I would have done something for them, all right? And so out of 1,000 people, roughly 77 of them sold in the following 12 months. I worked it all out. And of those 77, about 50% of them didn't call me at all. Okay, so they listed their properties with other agents. And although I had, tried to keep in touch and sent them marketing and, tried to update them over time, they just chose to go with another agent and they didn't give me a chance. Okay, I possibly could have done better by servicing them more and not, and there were ways that I could improve on losing so many, but I lost 50%. Okay, of the other 50% that was left, right? My conversion rate, so I would get an opportunity, right? So I would at least get invited in to compete with other agents, or I would just get given the business. Right? About 50% of what was left, so of the 38 that was left, 50% of them just gave me the listing. So there's 14 listings that would just, not 14, so 38, there's about 19 listings. 19 listings out of those 77 that listed were just basically handed to me because I had already done the work. I already had the relationship. When those people decided to sell, they didn't even second guess it. They didn't even make me compete. They just said, called me up. "Hey, Daniel, we are thinking of selling. You did an appraisal for me. You've kept in touch. Can you come over and we'll talk about it?" And I just went over and it was easy, right? It was easy, but I'd already done the work because I'd done the work years before by, making that original cold call, making the relationship, and then keeping in touch with that person over time. So I built up a level of trust. And people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. Okay, so I'd already done the work there. Of the other 50%, 19 listings that were left, I was in competition. So they would call me up and say, "Hey Dan, thanks for keeping in touch. We are going to sell. Can you come and meet with us?" And I would find out that there were other agents that I was competing with. It wasn't a guarantee, and I didn't win them all. but my conversion rate of those ones that I had built a relationship with and got a chance, my conversion rate was 70%. So of the 19 there, I was getting about 14 out of 19 that I had to compete, and then I was getting another 19 just kind of hand given to me. So out of 1,000 relationships that I had in the market, right, of the 77 that sold, I ended up with 19 plus 14, which is 34 listings. 34 listings I got from just building up a database of 1,000 people who I had done a favor for, who knew who I was, who knew where to find me, knew who I and I had done something for them. So that's how I did it. It's not that hard. It's not difficult, right? It's actually not difficult work. It's just hard work. It's a grind. You got to put in the hours. You got to put in the effort. You've got to do a lot of stuff for people out there in your area that has no guarantee of return. Okay, you don't know if it's going to pay you back, and you don't know when it's going to pay you back, but you just know with the power of numbers, with the maths, that if you do enough of it, and if you do more than any other agent is, then you will not fail. It will come back to you, and you will get paid for it. Okay. And I think that's the thing that most people don't understand, is that they're just looking for, I know I've got to do cold calls, but they're just calling to find an instant result. And you're just not going to find it, or very rarely. You might get lucky every now. As I said, I've done over 1,000 cold calls, 100,000 cold calls in my life. And I reckon that's happened twice, where I've actually called someone just at the very perfect time, and, they've listed their property within a week. And the other thing is that, if you're going to try and win business solely off marketing, and people don't actually know you, like you, or trust you, then most of the time you're not just going to get given the listing really easily. Okay. For example, if you're an agent that thinks, I'm not going to cold call, I'm just going to drop letterbox drops in everyone's mailbox all of the time. Okay. Well, yeah, that could work eventually. However, those people that might call you up, they don't know you. They don't have a relationship with you. They don't know how you work. They don't know anything about you. So the likelihood is that if you do get a call in from a letterbox drop or off a sold sign, the chances are that seller is also calling multiple other agents at the same time, because they're not just going to call one most of the time and just go, oh yeah, they'll do. They'll call multiple because they don't know anyone. They don't have a relationship. So they're looking for that, right? So that's why it's really important to build relationships. Number one, it brings the opportunities in. Number two, it makes those opportunities easier to convert into business. So those are some of the real benefits of cold calling, and how I managed to, completely take over a suburb within 12 months and have massive market share, and I kept it for 10 years. Okay, so some of the benefits of cold calling, but I want to talk about some other benefits of cold calling that you will get, okay? Number one, it makes you super resilient, right? Because if you're going to be successful in any business, but especially real estate, you get knocked down so much in this business, and you just have to get up all the time and just keep going and not worry about it. And cold calling just gives you really thick skin, because a cold call is a call where you are talking to someone who doesn't know you, who isn't expecting your call, they don't really want your call. And so when you're making these calls, there's a lot of rejection. If you don't catch people at the right time, or if you're not really good at breaking the ice and getting people's attention quickly, then you're going to get a lot of rejection. And you get a lot of rejection even if you're good at it, right? Even when I was at the top of my game with cold calling, I'd get rejected time and time again all the time. But you just get over it. You know what you're looking for. And if you truly believe what you are providing for the person that you're calling is of massive value to them, then you actually don't get scared of the rejection at all. Like, I always knew that what I was calling people for was actually of massive benefit to them. All right. Because let's face it, all the cold calls we do, we're trying to get in the door and provide some information to these people. And all of my cold calls revolved around getting in the door and giving them an update on their property value. Now, who the hell out there in the marketplace doesn't want to know what their property's worth? Right? Everyone wants to know what their property is worth, right? The only reason people reject you on the phone when you ask them if they want to know what their property is worth, the only reason they don't want your opinion on it is because, number one, they don't want to owe you anything, right? So if they say, oh yeah, come over and give me an appraisal, a lot of people feel like on the other end of the phone, oh shit, I'm going to be wasting this person's time, and then they're going to bug me. So like, no, I don't want it, right? So they're actually like, as if they don't want to know what their house is worth. They just don't want to owe you anything. And they don't want to feel like they're obliged to do anything back for you. So you need to take that out of their head and say instantly on the phone, look, don't worry. I'm actually doing this for everyone in your street. Look, I'm just going to provide you with the information. Don't worry. I'm not going to call you every week asking if you want to sell. You've already made it really clear to me that you're not selling. Okay? This is purely just some information. And hey, if one day you want to reach out to a real estate agent and ask some questions about the market and see what your property's worth, I'd love to get your call and help you out at that time, but I'll leave that up to you. Okay, so saying lines like that to take that feeling that they're going to owe something to you away from them. Okay, because and listen, there's about 7 of the most common objections. I can handle any objection and turn it around as to why someone needs an appraisal from me. Anything, right? And I wasn't always good. I want to make that really clear that I wasn't always good at cold calling. I know I did a lot of face-to-face marketing, and when I got into real estate, I'd never actually done calls. So all of the prospecting I'd done in the past was all face-to-face. It was door knocking and stopping people and being like right there in their face. And I thought that I would be able to just take that and just get on the phones and be just as good. Well, I wasn't. I was actually terrible at cold calling for at least the first 2 months. And really, I was stuttering on the phone, and there were new objections I had to learn. And, people would say no. And then I was like trying to talk my way around it. And I just was so, stuttery and not confident. And it really beat me down. And I realized after about a week, I was like, oh, I thought I'd be good at this, but I have so much to learn. But it didn't take long. It took me about 3 months to completely master it. But that was 3 months of at least, I would say, two hours a day of solid calls. Okay, so that's not even much. Like with 8 hours in a day, and I don't have any listings, it's not that much, but it was 2 hours a day solid calls. So I would lock myself in a room and I would have a list of a street of all of the numbers I could get. And it was just one after the other number. I would do my script. And if someone, didn't want it, and even if someone was really rude to me, it was hang up, and I wouldn't hesitate. I would dial the next number, and the phone would be ringing in the next 5 seconds. So it was like nonstop. I would write notes so I didn't get distracted, and anything that I needed to do, if I needed to update a database at the end, I would do that all at the end. I would have no breaks between cold calls. So that's what I found worked best for me. And I would do 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I would probably do maybe 2 to 3 hours again on Saturdays. And let me tell you, Saturday is the best time to call people because people are a little bit more relaxed. They're not coming home from work. Monday to Friday, you're catching people at work. You're catching people on the way home. They're going to the gym. They've got families. They're cooking dinner. It's hard to get people in that right moment. And a lot of it is just timing, when you're calling people. If they're not in the market right now and you're just trying to get the opportunity to come over and do an appraisal, if you catch someone at the wrong time, a lot of the time they just don't have time and they'll just be really short with you and hang up. Doesn't mean that they don't want it. And if you call back at another time, you might get that appointment. But on Saturdays, everyone's way more chill, because they're not working. They might be just at home. They've got stuff to do, but they're just not as stressed. My results on Saturdays from cold calling would be out of control. I would get 3 times the amount of appointments booked on a Saturday. So if you're an agent with no business, get on the phone on Saturday. I'm telling you, it's going to change your life. You're going to be booking up your whole week of appointments by calling on Saturdays. Let's talk about the strategy of a cold call quickly, okay? I'll run through this quickly, all right? I used to always follow a same strategy that I learned in my previous sales job, and that was firstly, you want to break the ice. Secondly, you want to get to the point of your cold call, all right, and why you're giving them a call. And then after that, you're either going to get a yes or a no, and you're going to handle the objection, reclose them. And if you get a no again, you're going to give them another reason why they should get the appraisal and reclose them again. I would always need 3 no's before I would say thanks very much and hang up the call. If someone didn't say no to me 3 times, the call wasn't over. Okay, so that's really important. A lot of the time, you can actually get someone by handling objections. So let's talk about some of those objections. Well, let's talk about the icebreaker first. So an icebreaker is just a way to open up the conversation and get this person wanting to talk to you. And one of the best icebreakers I would do is I would pretend I knew the person on the phone already that I was calling, because obviously it's a cold call. They don't know who I am, what I do. As soon as someone answered the phone, let's say their name was George, right? I already know their name's George because I've got a whole database, right? I know it's George I'm calling. I've got his mobile number, and I know he owns this certain property. I would call George. George would pick up the phone. Hello. I would say, George, oh my God, I can't believe I got a hold of you. This is awesome. And George would be like, oh, really? Who's this? And I would say, George, it's Dan Lee from Plum Property. I'm just giving you a call. Actually, have we met? I'm not sure if we've met. And this would just totally throw them off and be like, what? Who is this guy? Why is he so interested in talking to me? Do I know him? How does he know my name? That's what's going through this guy's head, right? Instead of the worst thing you can do is go straight into who you are and where you're from, okay? That is instantly that just makes people put their guard up. If I was to call someone and say, hi there, thanks for your time. It's Daniel Lee here from Plum Property. I'm just calling because instantly that person's just thinking, oh shit, cold call, oh God, yeah, they just, if they're not in the mood, they're just guards up. They just want to get off the phone, right? So I would always say something that would kind of trip people over and make them go like, oh, who is this? Why am I talking to this person? Why are they so excited? And then I would get into my reason for the call. Okay, so again, I'd be like, George, oh, it's so good to speak to you. I thought it was going to ring out or go to your answering machine, but I got you. Fantastic. Oh, who's this? Oh, it's Dan Lee from Plum Property. We've met, haven't we? I think I met you at an open home. Anyway, the reason for my call, George, is I have some really important information for you, right? The second thing I would do is then I would go into the reason for my call, which is to give everyone on the street an appraisal, and that's why I'm calling him. And I would use something called the Jones theory. All right, the Jones theory is keeping up with the Joneses. Everyone wants to do what everyone else is doing, okay? No one wants to be singled out, and no one wants to be the only one doing something. Everyone wants to follow the crowd and do what everyone else is doing. So this is known as the Jones theory in sales, okay? So I would use the Jones theory by saying, George, I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm actually in the process of updating every single person in your street with the value of their property at the moment. Okay, see what I did there? I'm not saying, hey, George, I'm giving you a call because I want to give you an appraisal of your home, all right? I'm saying, hey, George, I'm in the process of updating everyone in your street. Everyone's doing it, George, all right? Not just you. And if you don't do it, I don't care because I'm doing it for everyone else. And everyone else is smart, George, because they're getting an update on their property. And all of a sudden, George thinks, oh, well, if everyone's doing it, then I guess it's okay if I do it, right? So that's the feeling that I'm putting on people because everyone loves to follow the crowd. Everyone's okay with doing something if everyone else is doing it, but they don't want to be singled out. So that's one of the big advantages of using the Jones theory is making people feel like it's just normal. Everyone's doing it. It's not a big deal, okay? And make them feel like it's nothing serious, all right? Hey, George, it's nothing serious. I'm just in the process of updating every single person in your street on the value of your home, right? It's nothing serious. It's just a property update. It takes me 5 minutes, and I'm doing it for your house anyway, okay? So there's another thing. I would take away the feeling that this guy's going to waste my time by saying yes, because I'm saying I'm doing it anyway. Whether you like it or not, George, I'm doing this appraisal for you. All right, so I would say, George, I'm doing this appraisal on your property, and I was wondering, can I drop it around into your mailbox? Right? I mean, the answer is like yes or no. It's already happening. I can't, and George is thinking, I kind of want to know what this agent thinks my house is worth. Sure, you can drop it in my letterbox, right? And this is the most common thing I would do. And so I would get a yes to drop this property appraisal around in the letterbox, and then say, hey, George, that's awesome. I'm going to drop it around because I'm going to be around in your street Thursday or Friday. Actually, while I'm there, because I'm going to be visiting a number of other houses on your street to update all your neighbors on the value of their home. Is it all right if I just pop by for 5 minutes and shake your hand and give you the report there and have a look through your house and make sure that my valuation stacks up? Okay? And then, half the time they would say yes, and usually the only other half the time they would say no is because maybe they're embarrassed about their house and the way it's presented. But most people would be like, yeah, you can do that. I'll be home on Friday, and then I would just book a time. Right, so I'm taking all of the reasons why they shouldn't have me over and making it really, really simple and easy for me to get over. And then once I'm there, I'm there. That person is then going to get the best 5 to 10 minutes that they can get with me. I'm going to be super energetic, full of beans. I'm going to ask them heaps of questions about them, their family, their life, what they love about the street and the house, and why they were so drawn to buying this home. And then by the time I leave, the experience that they're going to have with me is that they're never going to forget me. All right. Now, you do that with like 1,000 people within a specific area. I tell you what, you do that, and I'm going to be looking at a really, really successful agent that makes a lot of money. Okay. So I just want to put that out there. Those are some of the best ways to cold call. It's the quickest way to build a database and get known when you don't know anyone, because let's face it, when you get into real estate, no one wants to sell their house with you. You have no profile. You don't know anyone. No one's going to call you. No one's calling you to sell their house. Not even your friends want to sell their house with you. Your family might sell their house with you, but they're probably scared to do so. All right? Because you haven't proven yourself. So you've got to get out there and actually build a database. And it's not hard, guys. It really isn't hard. You've just got to do it. You've just got to do the work and know that you're going to trip up. You're going to get rejected. People are going to tell you to F off sometimes, okay? But who cares? Right? I always just had that thought, the person on the other side of the phone, I'm never going to see that person again. I'm going to hang up that phone and I'm moving on to the next call, and I don't know who that person is. They don't know who I am. In 5 minutes, we've all forgotten. Who cares? Get over it. Right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that stops agents from actually doing it, is that they're too worried about like upsetting someone or, getting rejected and feeling like, I don't like this. I don't like it when people don't want to talk to me. Listen, people aren't going to want to talk to you. Okay. They're just not. It's a random cold call. You've got to get good at figuring out a way that to make them realize that they do want this information, because they do want this information from you. It's actually really important. Everyone that owns a property wants to have opinions from agents about what it's worth. I don't care what they tell you. They want to know. All right. So get good at cold calling. Master this skill. It's going to do so much for you. I built my whole business on cold calling. I never really door knocked in real estate because I felt that I could get through 10 times the amount of prospecting by cold calls. It changed my life. Get into it. If you drop a comment, if you want me to give you any advice or do anything further about cold calling, I've got so much to share and I would love to do more on this. So give me a comment if you found value. I'm hoping to provide massive value to agents out there in the marketplace who want to elevate their career and get really good at what they do. Thanks for listening. This is Get Keen. Stay keen. Thank you for tuning into the Get Keen podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please show your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure you subscribe on your favorite platform too. Don't stop there. Join our community of forward thinkers by connecting with me on social media at Dan_Lee_Plum. I'm looking forward to exploring more strategies and insights with you on your journey to the top. Until next time, keep getting keen.